fairly sure that we did that as a flag.
Okay.
Because I don't recall them actually making any kind of presentation, we just checked it.
Yeah.
Doug, you may remember.
That one?
Yeah, those two, actually. Did we handle those under a blanket?
Green Harbor Waterfront Lodging is nestled in a woodland setting on a picturesque ocean inlet. Green Harbor offers a family waterfront vacation. Enjoy our private boating beach with dock, rowboats, and paddle boats, oversized heated outdoor pool, and kiddie pool. Relax in our waterfront and beachside accommodations. 548-4747 or gogreenharbor.com.
Hosting services for fctv.org are provided by Meganet Communications. Meganet offers a wide array of internet services, including Mega Backup Cloud Service, server colocation, T1, fiber, Metro Ethernet, as well as telephone services such as hosted PBX and digital voice. Their number one goal is to keep your communications network up and running and allow you to focus on growing your business. 877-634-2638 or meganet.net.
Business in executive session.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Megan English Brock.
Patterson, aye.
Jones, aye. First Selectman has just returned from executive session. We're now back in open session. I invite you all to join us in Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Start with a few announcements. First, I'd like to take a moment of silence to remember some people in the town of Falmouth who have passed recently, and also think a little bit about some of the incidents last week. We had the passing of Damien Palenza. He was an artist, musician, a free spirit who passed last week. John Irving was in Lawrence High School. All these three people were graduates of our Falmouth public school system. He was a Lawrence High School graduate, a Navy veteran, father of 8 spectacular Falmouth High School athletes, including Jill Bishop, director of our senior center. And also last week, Jolene Tewksbury, so a Falmouth High School graduate, 4th grade teacher, and daughter of Sue Moran, who will not be here tonight for that very reason. She lived a life full of adventure and compassion. And concerning some of the issues last week, I'd like us all to remember as we think of these people, how thankful we are that we live in the town of Falmouth, where we do respect each other and treat each other with civility, with friendship, with kindness, that we are a community that will not tolerate hate for each other, but we actually care and show compassion to each other. So as you think about those people, remember that that's the way we are going to, and it takes work. We have to continue to work that way to make sure that we can always be that kind of community. So we just take a few moments to think of those, please. Thank you very much. We also have 2 other announcements, one for the board. Kenny Cousins, who has been retiring for years of teaching, is going to be honored at the Commodores game on Wednesday evening, and there's a hope that one of us could be there. Unfortunately, I know I cannot. I'm not sure there's a chance either one of you might be able to present a certificate for him.
Oh, go ahead.
No, it's fairly early, 5:30?
5:30, 6:30?
I think it's 5:30 is when it's going to happen.
I could be there.
I could be there if I move something around, so I think.
If Sam can be there, that'd be great then.
Okay.
Thank you. And the second is to remind people that tomorrow evening, there's a Little Pond Sewer Service Expo being hosted by the Falmouth Heights Improvement Organization from 4 to 7 at the high school, and then from 7 p.m. Continuing work on dealing with the contractors and giving out information about that. So tomorrow at the high school from 4 to 7 and then 7 p.m. Any other announcements? Time for public comment. If you would like to comment on something that's not on our agenda, you please may do so. You have up to 2 minutes. Yes, ma'am?
Hi, I'm Kathleen Dean from Falmouth.
I got it.
Just want to make sure you get the microphone so that people at home can hear you too.
Hi, I just want to introduce myself as the new chairman of the Falmouth Disabilities Commission. So I look forward to working with you all in the future, and now you know who I am.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next item is to approve our minutes from previous meetings. We have the minutes from the June 6th meeting. I think those are the only ones we have in our packet.
I move approval.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. The ayes have it. All right, our next item is under summary of actions. Approve an application for change of manager of all alcohol club license by the Portuguese American Association of Falmouth, 55 Ashmet Road. The new manager is Lucia Viveros. Is Lucia here? If you could come to the podium, please. Hello, if you'd introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Lucia Viveros. I am currently the Vice President of the Portuguese American Association of Falmouth, and I would like to become the new bar manager, replacing Joe Martino, who is electing to curtail his activities with the club.
Okay.
And my name is Peter Butler. I'm the President of the Portuguese American Association of Falmouth.
Okay. Questions from the board? According to the application, you live in Katuitt?
I do.
But you'll be available at the club?
Yes.
To be at the club when it's in operation, and when it's not in operation, or when you're not there, you're aware that you are still responsible for
Yes, I do.
the serving of alcohol?
Yes.
Do you have experience with alcohol in the past?
I am tip certified.
You are.
I have not been a bartender, but I am responsible, and our bartenders have been with us upwards of 6 or 7 years, and we all know the responsibilities associated with that. So I think we're just going to continue what we've been doing already.
And something that has come up in some of the other licenses like this, concerning a club license. And I guess there has been some confusion as to who was allowed to go to to participate in events at clubs. I just want to clarify that it is for members and their direct guests only.
Correct. We have members, and then we have special events in which our members bring guests.
And one thing that has also raised, I think it's something the board's going to have to deal with, is there are some clubs that then rent out their building to other organizations for weddings and issues like that, and that's something that the board is going to have to establish a policy, because clearly those aren't members and guests, but it's something we have to figure out, is that how we're going to deal with that.
Right, and that is something that we do. We do rent our facility for banquets and weddings and events.
Yeah, okay.
And just one other thing, I know that you would be new to this position, but how long have you been associated with the club?
Probably 6 years now.
Any other questions?
No.
Any comments from the audience? All right.
I move that we approve Lucia Viveras as the manager of the Portuguese American Club, otherwise known as the Navigator Club.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? None.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have some one-day liquor licenses, and you did not have in our packet, but we received an email today, comments from the police department on all three of these, approving them as provided that they follow the bylaws and laws of the town of Falmouth. One is for Historic Highfield, put bluegrass on the lawn, Sunday, August 7th. Then the Food Truck Festivals of America, Cape Cod Fairgrounds, on Saturday, August 27th. And the Town Square Active Insane Inflatable 5K Fun Run at the fairgrounds on August 13th.
I move approval of all three of those one-day liquor licenses.
I second.
Okay, and you also notice in our packet that we did have approval of these events being held at the fairgrounds, even though they don't completely follow the guidelines of the fairgrounds use. That was by the Zoning Board of Appeals approving those.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Next item is the approval application for change of manager of an all-alcohol club license, the Cape Verdean Club of Falmouth, 126 Sandwich Road, and this is for Melissa Lovell. Melissa Lovell here, come forward, please. Can you please introduce yourself?
My name is Melissa Lovell. I'm the president for 45 years.
Where were you before that? Just kidding.
I'm Glenn Albright, counsel to the Cape Verdean Club.
Great. Any questions, comments? I noticed that you said you lived in Falmouth, and so you have fairly easy access to the Cape Verdean Club, and you plan to be there during most of the time that it's in operation?
Yes.
You're not required to, of course. You can also stipulate someone else is serving on your behalf, but you would still be the one responsible for the serving of alcohol, even if you were not there. You understand that?
Correct.
Do you have a previous experience in the serving of alcohol, or?
Well, I worked at Family Foods for 12 years as a front-end manager and never once was caught in one of the Falmouth stings. So, and I am tip certified as well.
Great. Any other questions?
Well, I just to follow up on the one that you just asked, or reminded the previous manager of, you do understand that the particular restrictions of a club license?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that there has to be guests of a member
Yes,
who
sir.
should be in attendance at the same event. Good. I move approval of Melissa Lovell as the manager of the Cape Verdean Club of Falmouth.
I second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Any comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Opposed? None?
Thank you.
Our next item is the reconsideration of the temporary license suspension. I would like to start off by saying that one of my reasons for supporting the suspension in the past is that without a manager, I do not feel that they should be able to, they didn't really have a manager at the time. I think it's appropriate for us to lift the suspension until actually we've had the hearing, and after the hearing, we can then make a determination about any future suspension. But really, now that they have a manager to be able to run appropriately, I think it's appropriate that we get them running again in the way that they should be.
The only question I have is because of the two incidents that have occurred over the last 5 or 6 years, there was a promise that you would develop written procedures for how you're conducting the club and what kind of notifications you would give.
I think that's only appropriate within the hearing itself to really go into that and to really vet that.
Oh, okay. This is independent then?
Right. This is, I just think that, right, the past suspension I was comfortable with because they didn't have a manager on record. I think for the actual hearing to get into that is going to be in our hearing next week.
Next week? Oh, okay.
Or the 25th.
25th.
At 7:30.
And I think, Mr. Chair, if I might address the conflict that I had that required, me to recuse myself for the hearing, I think is really specific to the events of that particular evening with the alleged shooting. It's not really related to what we're looking at now. So my feeling is that there isn't a conflict, and I've spoken about this with town council. I don't think there's a conflict as it pertains to this particular issue.
Okay, great. Okay, any further discussion?
Well, I'm not sure what you're looking for, because it seems to me that until we get a little bit more information about how the club is going to conduct its business, I'm not ready to relax the suspension.
I guess my feeling is, I'm not sure that we really had the right to suspend the license without actually have conducted the hearing, with the exception of, since they didn't have a manager on record, I felt that we can encourage them, and maybe a suspension, maybe encourage them not to operate because it would be illegal for them to not operate. It would be illegal for them to operate without a manager. Now that they have a manager on record that we approve, they legally can operate, and I don't feel comfortable having any kind of suspension done when we actually haven't held a hearing. And for them to be able to put forward their case, for us to discuss the case, look into all the issues, I don't feel comfortable continuing the suspension at all until we actually hold the hearing.
I agree. I think that we're looking at two separate but related issues. One was that there was not a manager of record. So that was a separate issue that's been addressed tonight and remedied. If we don't, until we have that hearing, I agree that I don't think a suspension, a continued suspension, is the appropriate action to take regarding what policies may or may not be in place or how they're being implemented. So I would agree with you that I think we have to have that hearing. We've addressed, the immediate emergency, which is there needs to be a manager. That's done, and now we move to the next piece of it. And I think that the suspension has to be lifted for that interim period. So I would agree. I think that's what we have to do.
I sort of feel that way too.
Mark?
And I'm not going to actually open up the floor because this is not part of the hearing. I think this is just something for the board to figure out how we're going to resolve, so I appreciate it.
Will there be a vote or on lifting the suspension?
If I get a motion from my board, which if I don't get a motion from them, I'll make a motion, so.
Yeah, I wasn't looking to chime in. I did want to just raise the issue, and I'm glad you did. Thank you.
So I would move to lift the suspension until such time as we have a hearing.
I'll second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None?
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If I may, I'm just noticing that Mr. Alfonso is here. He had notified me ahead of time that he planned to film. I know that there's a procedure for doing that I think he has to ask for permission or notify the board, and I know that he came here just slightly after we started because he was at work, so I just want to recognize that he's present now.
So I'll make it clear that if anyone would like to audio tape, they may do so, but they need to notify us. If anyone would like to audio or videotape, they need to ask for permission.
Did I go up there?
Yes.
Everything happens there.
So that's part of it. So Chairman Jones, member of the board, thank you. Mr. Suso. My name is Philip Alfonso, Precinct 9 town meeting member. I stumbled onto something accidentally about 2 months ago. I made a Facebook page, and it's sort of an outlet, if you will. for members of
Okay, I
our
guess I'm not,
community.
if there's a request to videotape, that's what I will,
There's people here that if they're going to be, I mean, obviously you have FCTV here, but I just want to make it known there's no inappropriateness. Well, at times I take little jabs here and there. It's just, it's a town sort of forum, if you will.
okay,
So do I have permission to?
you have permission to. And I guess since you raised the issue, I'll make some comment about the jabs. Please do everything we can, and one time you said you wanted to create trouble. Please don't. Let's try to make this positive, civil, we're all working together, and not saying, oh, I wanted to stir up a hornet's nest. There's no reason for that.
No,
I'd rather
I
have engaging
actually,
discussion.
I think you'd be hard pressed to find the comment of where I've said I wanted to stir up trouble. What my thing is, I like to crack eggs to make omelets. There's a lot of people that are dormant and they don't pay attention to issues, and they actually don't care. So sometimes if I write something in a certain way, it sparks interest in our community. It gets people who normally don't care to come out and be involved.
It also sparks anger, and I really ask that you try not to do that.
Sure, no, I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've had a request to videotape. Do you have any problem with the videotaping?
Nope.
No?
I'm actually going to step out for 1 second to talk to Wes, and then I'll be back.
Great, thank you. All right, the next item are administrative orders. Unless you want to hold them, I would be prepared to put those under a blanket vote. The first is to approve the conservation restriction for the Kelly Woodland property on Sipquisset Road. The next is authorize the town manager to sign the Emerald House lease on 67 Davisville Road.
Hold that, please.
Okay. The next, we're going to have to table until a future meeting because I cannot participate in the discussion on the Woods Hole School lease, and we need 3 people to be able to vote on that, so.
Shall we do that, act on that? Because I've got quite a few holds, so I'm not sure that
All right, so-
doing a blanket vote is going to accomplish much.
All right, so let's go item by item.
Yeah.
All right, we have the conservation restriction for the Kelly Woodland property.
I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, the ayes have it. On the Emerald House lease, Mr. Patterson?
Yes, I just have a question about the cost to the town for this facility, and I guess, and this almost applies to the next 3 items, I know one of them will be tabled, but it occurs to me that we might just consider declaring these properties surplus and really gifting these properties to these organizations with a historic preservation restriction. Is there a reason why we're not taking that approach? I mean, it seems like there's no reason why we should have liability over them when we could handle this as a sort of a gifting situation and turn it over to those organizations, and they're fully responsible for them. I just want us to consider that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I might just interject, I do not have a good answer to that question, Selectman Patterson. I do know that what has been proposed is generally consistent with what's been done in the past on all 3 buildings, and Assistant Town Manager Heather Harper, prior to leaving her position, had been working on these 3 in terms of successor agreements, and as I think you've seen from the record that they go back varying years, but in some cases well over a decade, and I think it was just approaching it consistently. But I have no quarrel with if the board wants to look at it in a different light as well.
Well, we certainly can move forward with these leases. I'm not suggesting we're going to hold that up, but, and I don't know whether our Attorney Duffy has any thoughts about that, but I'm not, it seems to me that the town really never has any other plans for these properties, and these organizations do a really good job of maintaining them. I'm not sure why we want to maintain ownership when a preservation restriction would accomplish what we want to accomplish.
Good evening, Frank Duffy, the Town Council. You certainly can dispose of them as surplus property. There's a procedure that you have to follow that's outlined in Chapter 30B, which is called the Uniform Procurement Act, but also applies to the disposition of property. However, the timing is kind of important. One of the things is that you're poised to sign long-term leases for these properties. But if you dispose of these properties under the Procurement Act, there's no guarantee that the tenants are going to wind up owning them. So I think you have to decide if you're going to lease them, maybe you want to talk about a shorter-term lease while you're deciding whether to dispose of them. I think there's an inconsistency going on here between signing a lease tonight and disposing of these properties. Another point that has come up, it sort of ties into what you're alluding to, Mr. Patterson. There was a question posed to me this afternoon by Mr. Suso, which I answered by sending him an email, but unfortunately I think it got over there before he had, or after he had left for the day. But the question arose whether or not the tenants would pay fire insurance on the property. They have not over the years. They pay liability insurance, but they haven't paid fire insurance. And one of the reasons for that is that the fire insurance is at the option of the town. Because these are old buildings and they're historic buildings, if they're damaged in any way, we have the option of not building, of not rebuilding. Therefore, since it's our option not to rebuild, we have not passed the cost of the fire insurance on to the tenant because they wouldn't necessarily get the benefit of any payout from the premium. So I think what you're talking about is there's an inconsistency there. And if there's going to be a sale or disposition of them, it should be resolved before you get into a long-term lease, because these are possibly 30-year leases.
And who would necessarily, under the Procurement Act, to whom would the properties necessarily
Well,
go to?
I'm not prepared to go into the details because I wasn't prepared to answer that question, but I know you do have to put out requests for proposals, and anybody can submit a proposal. Of course, well, that's all I can really say right now.
Well, I guess it's business as usual, right? I would say on this, Catherine Bumpus wants to weigh in. You want to give her that opportunity before we continue?
Sure.
As a representative of an organization that holds 2 of these leases, I'd say, and as somebody who sat on that side of the table, as much as it would be nice to own these properties, I think it is in the town's best interest to control what happens in them and have some level of control over that, and knowing that they are going to be cared for. If we cannot meet the terms of the lease for whatever reason, it could go back to the town, and the town would continue to control them as historic properties. And I think that's a pretty good value to the town, certainly for what we're doing for them. It gives the community a much deeper level of control for things. And there is nothing that says that if you put them out for bid, that the organization would necessarily, that's been caring for them for many years, would end up being the responsive bidder. So.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I think in line with that same argument would be the fact that these are places where I think really significant community services are taking place. It isn't just a lovely historic building where things, are happening once in a while. All 3 of these properties, I think, are really serving the community as they are now and as they're managed now. So I think the town is really reaping an important benefit from the current state of how they're held and managed.
Well, I will move approval to continue the lease of the Emerald House to the Falmouth Service Center.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, none. This is authorizing the town manager to sign the lease.
Yes.
On the Woods Hole School lease, we were going to hold that to our next meeting. And D is the Woods Hole Fire Station lease.
I move approval of the lease of the Woods Hole Fire Station to the Woods Hole Village Association.
Second.
And authorize the town manager to execute the lease.
Second.
Motion and second. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. The ayes have it.
Well, thank you for your stewardship of those buildings. They're certainly icons of the communities.
Okay, the next item is the Visiting Nurse Association Fiscal Year 2017 Contract for Nursing Services. It's very much in line with what we've done the past few years.
I move approval.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, None, the ayes have it. Next item is to approve and sign a grant of license to the trustees of the DSJ Family Land Trust to place, erect, and maintain 254 logs, apply 60 cubic yards of compatible sand for beach nourishment, remove invasive plantings, seed with native grass species, and realign a portion of the existing revetment. This is the Great Pond and the Great Bay Road area, Great Bay Street, sorry.
I'd move approval with the appropriate conditions that have been placed on this. I think I'll just say it that way.
I would second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, the ayes have it. All right, then we have some donation account requests. Are these ones we can put together, Mr. Patterson? Do you have?
No, those are, well, let's see. Yeah.
All right, the first is to approve payment from the beach donation account to Cape Cod Aggregates in the amount of $1,100.88. And next, to approve a payment from the Austin Foundation donation account for the construction of the shed on Town Dock at Old Dock Road in the amount of $16,000. Next is to approve a payment from the Beach Department donation account to A1A Steel in the amount of $7,000. Approved donation to the Recreation Department donation account from Color Graphics in the amount of $588.
I move approval of these.
Second?
Motion is second. Further discussion?
Yes, I just want to thank the donors. I mean, there's phenomenal contributions to the community that come from individuals and organizations. I just happened to have been riding my bike on the bike path this morning and stopped by the Woods Hole dock and saw the small, I don't know, shack doesn't seem...
West Falmouth dock.
Pardon me? West Falmouth dock, excuse me, and saw the building, the small hut that's been put there, and I was very much impressed with that contribution from the Austin Foundation. But it's just a reminder of all the other contributions that are made, and just want to express my appreciation for the generosity of all those individuals and organizations.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, the ayes have it. And the last item on administrative orders is the fiscal year 17 grant application to Mass Housing for $3,000 for the administrative grant support to support the Falmouth Hoarding Task Force. I know that Karen is here. Do you want to give us a brief update on how that's been going? Because I know it's been a significant problem in the town of Falmouth.
It has been a growing problem. Back in 2012, about 8 or 9 of the departments in the town decided to get together and try and work collaboratively so that we wouldn't be duplicating services to folks who either needed assessment or some kind of service to help with problems of excess clutter. And so that's been pretty successful. We have about 14 people. We invited some folks from the community who work on this issue as well. And for the last 2 years, we have applied for a little mini grant from the Mass Housing Organization to help people who needed a little financial assistance, sometimes with the dumpster, sometimes with some sorting and discarding services, that sort of thing, sometimes with a heavy-duty cleaning might have been necessary. So it's been very helpful. We also have started a support group called Buried in Treasures, and that's for folks who recognize that they aren't happy with the lifestyle that they're living with, being buried under so many of their possessions. And so about 22 people have participated in that program in the last 2 years. They indicate that it's very useful for them to find a new way to think about their possessions and their belongings and help them get unburied so that their possessions can be helpful to their life again instead of taking over their lives. So we've offered that group for free through Falmouth Human Services. Our staff has been facilitating the group, and then we have used this grant to pay for the books so that people don't have to pay for the cost of the books. We don't want anyone to feel feel that that's a barrier to them participating. So this year, we would like to apply again for Mass Housing Grant. And the first year, we got $1,000. Last year, we got $2,000. This year, we're applying for $3,000. If we get the authorization from you, so.
And this is going to the Finance Committee and has their approval also.
Yes.
I move approval.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Karen.
That's for you.
Mr. Chairman, could I just comment, and members of the board, I just want to acknowledge Karen for her great leadership in, I remember back in 2012, as she's noted, she spoke to me about her desire to set up a team internally with this working group, this task force, and it's been wonderfully successful. And I just want to acknowledge Karen's leadership and stewardship during this time and thank her as well.
Thank you.
All right, we now have a public hearing, 7:30. I'll read the public notice. The Falmouth Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing under Section 240-77 Wetland Regulations of the zoning bylaws of the Town of Falmouth on Monday, July 11th, 2016 at 7:30 p.m. in the Selectmen's Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, on the application of Bruce and Susan Sheridan to construct and maintain a private residential 4-foot by 231-foot pier, 3-foot by 20-foot ramp, an 8-foot by 12-foot float system in and over the waters of Great Pond and tidal embayment. The proposed work also includes the removal of the existing licensed floats and pier remnants under license number 9656, the resource area restoration activities, including proposed invasive species management on the property located at 141 Shoreward Drive, East Falmouth, and with the associated clearing, excavating, landscaping, and shellfish seeding sponsorship. Interested parties may review the file in this hearing at the Selectman's office. Publication dates for Friday, July 1st, 2016, and Friday, July 8th, 2016. For approval, this needs to have 4 affirmative votes, and so I would suggest that we actually table this until the July 25th meeting at 8 o'clock, or continue it, sorry, not table it, continue it until then, and then we do not need to repost it because we read the hearing into opening, and this will be a continued hearing until July 25th at 8 o'clock.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, so that is continued until July 25th at 8 o'clock. Next item, back to our special events. We have our recurring event. This is the 21st Annual George Keegan Memorial Youth Fishing Derby. We also have the recommendation from the Police Department for approval of this. This will be on Thursday, July 21st, and Saturday, July 23rd.
I move approval.
Second.
And it's also been a request for the waiver of the permit fee.
Well, we
So
can't.
first we'll approve the event and then discuss that. All those in favor of approve the event, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none? Okay. Mr. Patterson, on the waiver?
Well, I think this is a worthy activity and certainly falls into the category of being eligible for a fee waiver. I think we have minimums, though. Is that not right? So would this then drop to a $100 fee? It's the first day and the
last.
An administrative fee, is it 170? I'm sorry, I just want to make sure when we vote on this, we know exactly what the fee would be.
Well, we have not followed our policy completely. For the Jazz Fest and the Arts Festival, we actually waived the permit for that without looking into that. So we have sort of now set a precedent that we, for organizations that we find have not been charging fees, is where we went against our policy, saying, if they're not charging fees or selling anything, it's for the groups that were selling things that we stuck with our policy, but for the other organizations where there is no charge for it and it was all free, is where we seem to have said that we had a little more freedom to waive the fee if we wanted to.
Oh, good.
And I think that's appropriate. I mean, I think this is an event for children. They obviously are responsible for any fees if they have to hire a police detail or anything like that. So, the benefit to the town versus the benefit to a small organization, I think it weighs on the side of the latter, so.
And the idea of there being no charge for the children to
Correct.
participate
Right.
convinces me of the
Well, I'll move that we waive the fee for this 21st annual George Keegan Memorial Youth Fishing Derby.
The only fee I don't think we have any flexibility of waiving is the $10 filing fee. So we can waive the $300 permit fee.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Fee is waived for the permit. Okay. We have two other hearings scheduled exactly at 7:45, 7:55, so we will move on to the voluntary water conservation measures. I don't see Mr. Rafferty here, but I think we still have them in our writing that we can read as to what they are. They're the ones that we've done in the past.
Right.
So I'll read them out loud or entertain a motion. And this is ask that the board to affirm the following: that residents, businesses, landscape maintenance companies, and homeowner associations, and I would like to add, and the town, are encouraged to reduce outdoor water by voluntary water conservation measures. That the watering of lawns and shrubs is limited to odd even days only, based on house address between the hours of 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. The washing of patios, sidewalks, and driveways is prohibited, excluding businesses for safety and health reasons. Pistol grip nozzles are required for all hoses used for washing cars and all hoses at dockside facilities. And that restaurants may only serve water when requested by patrons.
I move that we implement the voluntary water conservation policy
And I would just add as amended.
as amended. Okay.
And the reason I added the amendment is 3 years ago I drove by and saw that our fields being watered at 12 o'clock at noon. I thought it was not a great example that we were setting since most of it was being evaporated anyway. And again, these are voluntary conservation measures that we're asking people to do. We do not have any fines or regulations or enforcement.
So I would second then as amended.
Okay, motion and second. Further discussion?
Yeah, I really would like to encourage, I know this is a voluntary thing, but I've heard other people say this, but I know in my neighborhood I've walked by people watering their lawns when it's raining. And it's really goes against all the things that we're trying to accomplish here by conserving water. We go through a huge increase in demand on our aquifer during the summertime with all of the summer residents that come in and all the extra showers that are taken and what have you. And really, we need to get into a practice of being far more cautious about our water use and oriented toward conserving it. So I just want to, add that little extra editorial to it.
Great. Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it. Well, let's see. The liquor license, the wetland. We don't want to start doing the interviews yet for committees where people may not be here.
Maybe we'll take a 5-minute break.
So we will take a 5-minute recess until 7:45, at which point we can start our other hearings. So we'll be in a brief recess.
Thank you.
Call our meeting back to order. We have a liquor license hearing. We have an application for a new all-alcoholic common victual license. This is the Tasty Oyster, Inc., doing business as Epic Oyster, 7 County Road, North Falmouth. Notice is hereby given under Chapter 138 of the General Laws as amended. The Tasty Oyster, Inc., doing business as Epic Oyster, has applied for a new all-alcoholic common victual liquor license located at 7 County Road, North Falmouth. Your hearing will be held in the Selectmen's Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, on Monday, July 11th, 2016, at 7:45 on the above application. And this was published on July 1st, 2016. For the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I am Laura Moynihan, an attorney from Falmouth. I represent the applicant, Massachusetts Corporation, that is applying for the Section 12 restaurant all alcoholic license. The principal of the corporation is Mark Warner, who's here in the front, with his wife Sarah Bogdan, who is the proposed manager for the restaurant establishment. They live in Falmouth, and they have 3 children, and they have both been involved in the liquor service restaurant business for many, many years. Sarah's resume is on file with the application, and Mark has been involved in the restaurant and liquor business for about 30 years. This property is at 70 County Road in North Falmouth. The applicant would be leasing the property under a 5-year lease with a 5-year option to renew, as well as an option to purchase. It is in a business zone neighborhood. The land is Zone Business 3. It is in a business area of North Falmouth with the Rockland Trust Bank across the street. There's the North Falmouth Superette on the corner as well. Then there's also a commercial complex on the opposite corner. The premises had operated as a restaurant for many years. It is an old building. It has 33 seats in it. It has been certified by the town for 33 seats, so the applicant would not be increasing the number of seats that have always been there. So we're looking at a relatively small oyster bar that they'd like to operate. I've given you the menu that they have created, as well as the floor plan for the inside of the building, and a exterior plan showing the parking and how the building is laid out. I've also given you some photographs of what the building looks like now. And with this license in place and the restaurant operating, there would be significant upgrades to this property, which I think would be of tremendous benefit to the neighborhood of North Falmouth and the community. They're going to invest about $85,000 in the property. With the exterior improvements, they'll be looking at adding some gabled roofing to the building to bring it more in keeping with the traditional architecture. It's in the historic district, so it will have to, they'll be looking at any improvements. They will re-shingle the building, new siding, new roofs, new landscaping out in the front, resurface the parking area. So significant improvements. The manager, as I said, is Sarah, who's right here and is available for questions if you'd like to ask her. She has a bachelor's degree from UMass Boston in business management. She also has a master's degree in elementary education from Lesley University. And she's had about 19 years of experience in the restaurant business and the liquor business. She's a well-qualified manager, I think. She's TIP certified. She'll be on the premises at least 40 to 50 hours a week. The applicant has reached out to the neighborhood. They've notified the North Falmouth Village Association. They've spoken with the abutters to the property. They've, through me, have talked with the owners across the street, Good Builders, who have a condominium project there. We haven't heard any objections from anyone, and generally speaking, the consensus seems to be that people are very pleased that somebody will be taking this place over, cleaning it up, and upgrading the property. The hours we're asking for Monday to Sunday, 11 a.m. to midnight. We are not asking for an entertainment license. no outdoor licensing. So those are my comments. Be happy to answer any questions.
I had 15, all of which you answered.
Okay.
I guess one, just to follow through on another manager license, Sarah, if you'd come to the podium.
These, I don't know if you would like these now, or would you like me to drop them at the office?
The office would be best.
Okay.
And just to be aware that as manager, you are responsible for the sale of alcohol, even if you're not there.
Of course.
You need to designate someone else to be responsible for that.
Yes.
This is the site of the North Falmouth Diner, is that correct? I've eaten lunch there many times, but it's been many, many years, I have to say, so it's nice to see that that it will be reopened and reused for that purpose.
It keeps coming back every now and then, and
I know.
I hope this is a little bit longer time of business.
It's definitely a landmark.
I just had a question about the parking, because I know it's sort of an odd-shaped parking lot, and you had talked about doing maybe some paving. Is the shape of the parking lot going to change, or is that general footprint, is that sort of it seems like the parking is small for a restaurant of that, so I'm just wondering what you anticipate doing with that.
Yes, on the last page of the packet, you'll see there's a dashed line that's going through the newly proposed parking area. That's generally the outline of the existing parking area, which is unimproved. It's a dirt area surface. So the new parking area will be improved. The spaces will be lined. It will be paved. They're also proposing to actually close one of the curb cuts off of Old Main Road, which, from what I understand from Mark, he's reviewed that with the town engineer, and that was received favorably to actually relocate that curb cut, so as part of the project.
Thank you.
And that one coming, this has not gone to the planning board yet.
It will not have to go to the planning board because we're not increasing the number of seats. So the use of the property as a restaurant is not changing, and we're not increasing the capacity of the restaurant to handle more people. So it'll be reviewed by the town engineer. It'll have to have sign-off through the building department and the historic district committee as part of the building permit process.
Well, then I guess it's up to us to ask the question about what's going to be between the parking lot and the property to the south, I guess, along Old Main Road. Is there going to be any kind of landscape screening? I guess I'm not sure exactly what that property is that's even there. Is that a residence or is that another business?
We were just discussing that would be the property with the frontage on Old Main Road, the larger building. It's the fellow that lives there, Mark has spoken with him. He didn't have any objections to the proposal. I don't know if, as part of the plan, you are thinking of putting some landscape shrubs. You have to come up to the shrubs now.
Just so the people at home can hear this.
Yeah, I believe it's a multi-family property, so there's, do you want to say?
It's pretty thickly forested. We don't have any plans to change it.
Okay, my concern is just the number of headlights that will be going directly into the gentleman's property. And
well, they're actually I guess when they pull in, yeah. But it's pretty thickly.
Okay. So there's already screening there?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the tenant's property in here.
So
there's not really much. You guys can put some arborvitae's in there. I think that it is relatively open there, but certainly they could look at putting some arborvitae's or something in there to just break that up a little bit, or a hedge maybe.
Well, I would certainly encourage that they work with the neighbor to make sure that he's fully aware as to, with the reorientation, and I think very well served that parking lot's being improved.
Right.
But the effect of having, it looks like 10 cars potentially, all aiming right at his house.
Yeah, and it certainly would be in the best interest of the restaurant owner to put that into the plan so there aren't any future issues, correct? So we will work on that.
Great. Any other questions from the board? Okay. Is there anyone else in the public who'd like to speak on behalf of this application? Is there anyone who'd like to speak in opposition to this application? Hearing no other comment?
I move that we close the hearing.
There's been a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hearing is closed. And what would you like to do?
I move that we approve the application for liquor license to the Tasty Oyster.
Second?
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it.
Thank you. Just a point of clarification, do you need to include the hours in your motion?
Well, it's per the application.
Or as applied?
I think we were going with what the application was.
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
11
Not
a.m.
mu-
to 12 p.m., 11 a.m. to midnight.
That's certainly my intention.
Yes. I knew that, Mr. Thank you.
Thank you for keeping that enterprise going and that location going.
All right, our next item is an EDIC report update from Michael Galasso. Mr. Galasso, I'm going to interrupt you at exactly 8 o'clock for a 2-minute opening and continuing of a hearing. And if you'll just bear with us, we can just go ahead with your presentation and interrupt it briefly for that.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Michael Glass. I'm the chairman of the Falmouth EDIC. And first, members of the EDIC board are saddened by the loss of the children of 2 of our members so far this year. Of course, the recent loss of Sue Moran's lovely daughter, Jolene, last week. And earlier this year, the loss of board member Jay Zavalis' son. So our thoughts and prayers are with them both. So I want to thank the chairman for putting us on the agenda this night to give you an update on some of the projects that the EDIC is working on. And I'm hope to come back on a monthly basis to give you updates as we move along on these projects. The first is the solar at the landfill project. This is the 4 megawatt of solar power to be developed on a portion of the capped landfill that's leased to the EDIC by the town that will produce close to 5 million kilowatts of renewable energy each year and save the town close to $500,000 in yearly electrical costs. This is the first phase of a 2-phase development. The second phase of 2 megawatts is scheduled for 2017-2018, and an additional 2 megawatt community solar project to power up to 200 homes of low and moderate homeowners and renters is scheduled to commence once we find an approximately 10-acre site. The developer of the solar project at the landfill is Citizens Energy. They are ready to pull the building permits and start construction pending approval this evening of a couple items that are on your agenda. Once construction of the first phase at the landfill commences, it is scheduled to be completed and generating electricity early this fall. We are also working with the school department to explore developing solar power to reduce electrical costs at some of the school buildings. The next project that we're working on is the renovation of the former train station on Depot Ave. Last year, as you may recall, the EDIC entered into a long-term 99-year lease with Mass DOT to manage and renovate the train bus station located on Depot Ave. In addition to the long-term ground lease, Mass DOT has provided the EDIC with a $1.4 million grant to pay for the renovations of the train station. We have hired an architect, civil engineer, landscape architect, and clerk of the works, and are scheduled to release the plans for the renovation to contractors for bidding on July 29th, with bids due on September 2nd. Assuming the bids come in within budget, construction would commence before the end of September. We're working with the Steamship Authority to find a temporary location for Peter Pan bus operations during the 4 to 5 months of renovations. As we all know, we have a superhighway that runs through our community called Open Cape that provides ultra-high-speed internet service to some of our municipal buildings and scientific buildings in Woods Hole. The EDIC is in discussions with Open Cape to develop a plan for what's called the last mile of the network to connect more businesses and residents to the network. We believe that connecting to Open Cape will be an advantage in attracting new employment opportunities to our community, and we are working on a way to make that economically happen. Lastly, housing is an important component to creating and retaining jobs in our community, and the EDIC board is considering funding the next phase of the town's housing demand study and needs analysis that was completed in 2014 to provide the town with additional data on the number and types of housing needed to meet
the current and future housing demands for our workforce. We hope to have that information available this fall. That completes my report. Thank you for your time this evening, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Colasso?
I do have, Michael, have you actually gotten a contract to complete that housing needs study?
We talked to the consultant today, and she hopes to have a proposal to us probably sometime next week. She's bogged down in a lot of other tasks right now, but we've had communications with Judy, and she hopes to have a contract. We have an idea what the cost will be, and we're just waiting for her to put that down in writing and send that on to us.
Well, I just want to thank you for taking the initiative to go ahead and pursue that, because this subject came up in our discussions with the planning board, and I know that I've heard it discussed by the Community Preservation Committee as well. It's just a missing piece that really is going to help us move forward in exploring additional affordable housing for the community, or should I say community housing. It's almost more middle-class housing, for sure. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome, and we're glad, and the information I think will be helpful to many different departments throughout the town.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next item is a wetland hearing for the Ashumet Valley property owners. Nourishment and improvement at 0 Courier Road, East Falmouth, Ashumet Pond. Public hearing notice, the Falmouth Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing under Section 240-77 wetland regulations of the zoning bylaws of the town of Falmouth on Monday, July 11th, 2016 at 7:55 p.m. in the Selectmen's Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, on the application of Ashumet Valley Property Owners, Inc. for the proposed nourishment and ancillary improvement activities at 0 Courier Road, East Falmouth, Mass. Area affected is Ashumet Pond. Interested parties may review the file in this hearing at the Selectman's office. Publication dates were Friday, July 1st, 2016, and Friday, July 8th, 2016. Again, to be able to approve this, we need to have 4 voters. And since we only have 3, I would suggest that we continue this hearing until July 25th at 8:15.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. July 25th at 8:15. Next item is the Citizen Energy Solar Project. Review of the lease and approval of easements. Mr. Duffy.
Mr. Chairman, Frank Duffy, Town Council. Here in attendance is Emma Kosiak of Citizens Energy. We'll perhaps both have a couple of remarks. These are the final 2 documents that we need to get the project at the landfill underway. Back in November, when town meeting approved this project, one of the things that town meeting did was authorize the lease of the land for this project. That lease is memorialized in a document known as an intergovernmental agreement. The second thing that town meeting did was they authorized you, the Board of Selectmen, to grant easements. There are 2 easements that are necessary for this project. The first is an access easement. That's the access in and out, because the leased area doesn't have frontage on Thomas Landers Road. The second is the easement to run the lines to transmit the electricity that the photovoltaic array is going to generate so it can connect to the grid on Thomas Landers Road. The location of those easements was not known in November. That's why we authorized the Board of Selectmen to grant them when they were known. For some time now, they have been working, Citizens Energy has been working with our town engineer, Peter McConerty, up at the landfill to locate these easements. There was a proposed location about a week or 10 days ago that turned out to be problematic because it would have interfered with some of our proposed development that the town proposes to develop up there, so we rejected it. But we have now the proposed easement. There are 2 easements, as I said. And do we have that plan? Yeah, I think this will be enough. This is unfortunately, they didn't come equipped with something to put on the board. But I can distribute this.
Thank you.
Ingress and exit easement is the existing service road to the landfill. Nothing changes there. The the path now that they will use to connect to the grid is again on the existing service road. Sounds pretty simple, but it took a while to get this resolved. The easement for the connection of the electricity is, my understanding now, is going to be buried, but the easement will allow for overhead transmission if it's technically required, but I believe the intent now is to bury it, correct?
I believe that's our first priority, but as you said, if for technical reasons it has to go.
All right, but it's going to go along the existing road. There's going to be no new easement area created. Now, if you look at this plan, this is an aerial view. I guess it's Google Map. The easement will provide access to the capped landfill by this curved roadway, which will be built. It goes through the area that formerly was used as, I think it's a scrap metal pile, but that's going to be moved. So this is the one that the DPW would prefer they use, and they've agreed to use it. So,
how long is that easement going to have to be for?
it actually will be there for the duration of the photovoltaic project, which is 25 years, but it will probably only be used during construction and for maintenance purposes after that.
But during construction, it'll be used heavily. After that, it will be used fairly lightly.
That's what has been told to me, yes. But during the construction, they'll be bringing a lot of heavy equipment in there. And I think the plan is, at least as represented to me, the plan was to move most of the heavy equipment in during hours when the public would not be in there, so, for safety purposes. So there are two documents that are going to be presented to you tonight for approval and execution. The first is it's an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement. Now, the intergovernmental agreement is a fancy word for a lease. It's called an intergovernmental agreement because we have two governmental bodies that are involved in the transaction. The town of Falmouth owns the property, and the lessee is the Falmouth EDIC, both governmental authorities. The EDIC has subleased the property to Citizens Energy, but we're not talking about that. That's a transaction, it's a done deal, it's all over. So what we are doing is amending the intergovernmental agreement to identify the specific easements that I just referred to. The second document that I have tonight is a memorandum of intergovernmental agreement. This parrots all of the language in the first document, which is the amendment, but this is the document that simply gets recorded in the Barnstable Registry of Deeds and is noticed to anybody that of these interests, the lease of the property for the photovoltaic and also the easements. The memorandum of intergovernmental agreement does not create any new rights or responsibilities. It's just notice it gets recorded in the registry. That is signed by Mr. Suso when you authorize him to do so. The first document, the amendment to the intergovernmental agreement, will be signed by the Board of Selectmen, and 3 as a quorum is enough. And that reason for that is you signed the original intergovernmental agreement. So that's about as far as I can go with it. If Emma has anything you'd like to say to the board.
No, Mr. Duffy, thank you very much. I think you explained it very eloquently. I think the only point that I would add is that in this, Google Map layout, because all of the other layouts and everything that we have are, very detailed with all sorts of different engineering specifications and everything, and whereas the purpose of tonight was really to focus in on just this easement. So, I apologize for the simplicity of it, but I was just trying to make the point that that is the, the easement, and I think you folks have probably all traveled, to the transfer area station and kind of understand where this is. So, let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer anything.
Any questions?
I guess they're planning to start tomorrow or the next day?
Yes, as soon as possible, yes. Okay. As soon as we sign, assuming we get authorization to sign these agreements, then we can release funding and start construction, in a matter of, we're set up and ready to go in a matter of a week.
We do need to have power running by this calendar year, is that correct?
Yeah.
That's the intention. The caveat I would give that is that it really comes down to the utility, NSTAR or Eversource. and we don't control how quickly they can do their work. So they've told us they are on schedule to meet that end-of-year deadline, but, you know, if we could be completely constructed and waiting for them is a typical situation.
I think the end of year is required to comply with the tax credits. And there are certain milestones that have to be made, which is, I think, what's causing the sense of urgency that I do have the original documents here. If I could submit them for signature, then they can take them back to Boston. So we'll need your vote first.
And it's two different votes. One is the intergovernmental agreement, and the other one is...
All right, the first vote is to amend the intergovernmental agreement to identify the easements, which I just referred to and presented to you on that graphic demonstration. The second document is to execute them, is to have Mr. Suso execute the memorandum of intergovernmental agreement, which is the memorandum which will be recorded in the Registry of Deeds, and that's strictly a notice.
Well, I'm not sure I'm going to get this right the first time, so I welcome your editing. But I move that we amend the current intergovernmental agreement to include construction easement and a power transmission easement.
Right.
And authorize the town manager.
No, you sign that.
Separate.
Well, we're going
Do that one.
to, then I'll just stop it there.
I second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none? Okay.
And the second piece?
Second piece,
Is-
if I dictate it, you can just adopt it.
I think he's got it.
All right.
Oh, but, well, not quite. It's basically a modification to the intergovernmental agreement.
No, the
I'm
second
sorry,
that was the
yeah.
first amendment to the
Yeah.
intergovernmental agreement.
Yeah.
The second document is a memorandum of intergovernmental agreement. You're authorizing Mr. Suso to sign that, and that is to be recorded in the Registry of Deeds as notice of the transaction.
So moved. Rather than try to...
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, none? You're authorized to sign that one. You will sign the first one.
Mr. Chair, if I could, I think for the sake of the public, I think it's important to recognize that the two easements that we have authorized basically follow the access roads that already exist at the town recycling center. So it's not really opening up new ground in any other location, so that's, most people that have been there know exactly where this is.
All right, our next item are to interview, vote, and appoint committee members. We'll start with the Bikeways Committee. We have two vacancies, one term ending on June 30th, 2017, one term ending June 30th, 2019, and we have 4 applicants. First, we'll hear from Ms. Richard Peel. If you would please introduce yourself and tell us why you'd like to be on the Bikeways Committee.
Mr. Chairman, may I just ask a question? To be notarized, it's all your free act and deed?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think I put my position down. If you want me to get back, I'll...
Thank you, Mr. Peel, for your patience.
Thank you. Richard William Peel. And yes, I would be interested in becoming a member of the Bikeways Committee. I moved into town here early 70s, went through the whole school system here, and I grew up laying pennies on the railroad tracks, watching them get flattened, and then also was here when, when the railroad bed was retasked as the bike path. and then as it further extended up into the North Falmouth area. I honestly feel that that in itself is a huge attribute to the town. The bike path is used by just numbers of people. And we, as the committee, I've been to a number of the meetings, and as a concerned citizen, to basically really to get across that what a great attribute this is that the town has. There are loads of bike paths in the state. I've been to a number of them in the state. I've been to a number of them out of the state. But the natural environment that this path goes through is remarkable. And, you know, I mean, it is something that we as a town really need to, you know, seize upon and really hold up as something for other places to, you know, to strive for. I've been very attentive to the new bike plan. I've been interested in watching as the committee has tried to develop a bikeways plan in and around the town. You know, because there are underserved areas in this town that could be really helped by having a safe and reliable way to get from the outer reaches of town into town. We've discussed a couple of ideas. The committee has a great plan laid down right now, and I would look forward to the opportunity to kind of help develop that more and also publicize it all the more. So, short and brief.
Any questions from the board? Do you know who the other applicants are? Do you know the other applicants at all?
I do not.
I was going to ask you who would be the other one you would pick. But it's great that we have 4 people applying, but in looking at the resumes, they're all
Really good.
really great
Right.
candidates for this position. So, all right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Move on.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we'll
Thank
hear
you.
from Ms. Benjamin Harden.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here. My name is Ben Harden. I'm an assistant professor of oceanography up at the Sea Education Association. I've recently committed to living in Falmouth full-time. I've been here for 4 years. Last time I was in this room, I was getting married, and we just moved into a place out in East Falmouth. So I'm ready to commit to Falmouth, and what I really want to do is make a difference. And one of the things I really care about is cycling around town. I'm an avid commuter cyclist. I live out in East Falmouth, which is a very difficult place to commute from. I do it as often as I can and as often as I feel safe. But one thing I care deeply about is I've been following the Bikeways Committee for some time now and been to their meetings. The bike plan's great, but there's a little bit, maybe too much focus, you might say, in the committee on the Shining Seas Bikeway. I love the Shining Seas Bikeway. I think it's a great town resource. It clearly brings in tons of tourism and is a fantastic thing, but it really only serves part of our community. And we really need to do something to make it safe to get to other parts of town, basically east and north of Main Street, and you're in kind of dangerous territory when you're on a bicycle. I'm the shop manager at the Falmouth Bike Lab. So what we do there is we engage with the community on a grassroots level, donating bikes to the community, helping people fix their bikes and maintain their bikes. And so I've got a great avenue to talking to people on the street about what it is like to be cycling in Falmouth. A lot of people are very nervous about it. I think we could be doing a lot more to serve these people. The Bikeways plan has got some great ideas for putting some hard infrastructure and for some softer ideas about how to educate people on how to share the road, both cyclists and car users. So that's my major goal for joining the Bikeways Committee. I'd love to make a difference and help the Bike Lab join up with the Bikeways Committee on making people more aware of good cycling practices and how we might improve the infrastructure to get more people cycling in other parts of town.
Questions, Mr. Harden? All right, great, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have from Ms. Clifford Harris.
How you doing?
Good.
So, Mr. Bryan, Mr. Patterson, Mr. Jones, I'm a police officer in town. Moved here in 1999. Avid cyclist. I'm actually the liaison to the Bikeways Committee for the police department. I'm on the roads all the time. I work day shift. I bike on the bike path on patrol and also leisurely. I've got involved in cycling about 4 or 5 years ago, and I absolutely love it. I'm always selling the bike path and Falmouth to everybody I interact with on the street. From East Falmouth to North Falmouth to West Falmouth, I drive these streets in my cruiser, and I also ride them. I think I know every route on that, or rut on that bike path right now. I know where it needs to be fixed. I know where we can make some improvements and sell it. To echo these gentlemen, I think those are great ideas. There's some tough competition here. I'm out in East Falmouth. I'm out in North Falmouth. I'd also like to see it expand, though, into Bourne. I know that's one of the things that's talked about. Some of the engineering and other aspects, I bring the safety aspect to it that maybe my other predecessors can't. I know the laws of cycling, and I know the roads, and I think I would be a great asset to the Bikeways Committee. Any questions? Glad to answer.
Any questions? Mr. Patterson?
Well, a comment, I guess, while I have the opportunity, and that's to thank you for the job that you and all the other officers did on the 4th of July. I know that you're required to work that day.
Yes.
But really, you handled the whole event very efficiently and I think safely. And I just want to express my appreciation to you, but to all of your fellow officers as well. So
Thank you. It was actually the first year I wasn't on a bicycle for the 4th of July, so hold that against me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Ken Costle?
Thank you. I don't envy the decision you have to make here. My name is Ken Costell. I'm a resident of Falmouth and of East Falmouth since 2010. I'm a science writer at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. I commute to work year-round. I ride the bike path, the roads. I'm out on my bike in the snow, in the rain, dark of night, like the postman. I have watched the work that the Bikeways Committee has done over the past 6 years, and I've been very impressed with what they've been able to do to move from bike path-centric focus to more of an integrated plan for the community. And I'd like to be a part of making that vision outlined in the 2015 bike plan a reality. I would also like to help extend it to make Falmouth not just a place where people come for recreational cycling, but where people feel safe, where they can go about their daily business by bike, help take cars off the road, out of parking spaces. And that's a tall order. I think that one of the largest goals that they have in the plan is the construction of the east-west connector. And while I think that's a great starting point, I think more needs to be done to make that east-west connector to give people the ability to get from where they live or where they work into town to do their errands, go shopping, to do whatever they might want to do by car, but on bike. And I think that we are poised to be a leader in the region of integrating bicycle infrastructure with the roadways that we have that are just as beautiful and as much of an attraction as the excuse me, the Shining Sea Bikeway. Do you have any questions?
Questions? So, thank you very much. The Bikeways Committee is one of the hardest working and friendliest committees we have out there. So, we're going to appoint 2 out of the 4. The other 2, I encourage you to go to the committee meetings anyway. The only thing you'll lose is you won't be voting, but you will be allowed to participate, I'm sure, just as much as the people who actually are appointed. We've dealt with a lot of hard things. In some ways, this is one of the hardest decisions I know I'm going to make, as to how to choose among people who have such interest, passion, devotion to the bikeways. And I hope you'll do me a favor and make me easier by saying, we're going to go anyway. We just won't be able to vote, but I can't guarantee, ask you to do that. But so,
Well, I've kind of made a very difficult decision from my perspective. And I guess what I'd like to do is ask Officer Harris to continue in your liaison role. You're going to participate anyway, right? So if we just don't make you a voting member, we need your resources. So that's one of the ways I'm going to whittle the list down. And I really appreciate, the expertise that you actually can offer to the Bikeways Committee. So appreciate that and your experience as a biker as well.
So the formal way we have to do this is we have to put, nominate people to be, and put people on nomination.
I'm terribly sorry, I would call.
You have to
go to the mic.
They can't hear you.
I listened to the other three gentlemen who spoke here. You know what? These guys are really qualified. Way more qualified, I would say, than myself. No, I'm actually going to take my name out of the hat, because honestly, I have been to the meetings. I know that I can voice opinions in the meetings, and they take that, and that's all that I'm looking to get. I'm not looking to become, a cornerstone. I'm looking to basically have my opinions heard. And Scott's done a great job in listening to my opinions and taking them on. So I'm not looking to make your decisions easier.
Well, it makes it slightly easier, but although I think.
But I'm just, seeing these gentlemen here, and there's some qualifications that I just don't have. And I respect that 100%.
Can I, Rich, in your defense, obviously, and I thank you for withdrawing your application.
Mm-hmm.
I think your skills, though, in community relations are something that you can bring to that committee. So I hope you will continue to stay active. And
no
you
doubt.
mentioned the whole idea of promoting the bikeway. It's an amazing resource. I agree with you. I was on it this morning, and anytime I go on it, I see something new. But I just happened to look across Great Sippawisset Marsh today, looking out across Buzzards Bay, and my mouth just dropped open because I just had not stopped to see that vista, and it's quite incredible. So, but I think you could really help the committee if you want to continue.
There's no doubt, yes, and I definitely will be an active member of it. But, when it comes to biking, the core thing about biking is safety. Right? We want our kids to feel safe on the bike, on their bikes.
Yeah.
And our village is not just, the run of the Shining Sea.
Right.
Our village is significantly larger.
Agreed.
And so this feeling safe is, I would say, is the capital thing for here. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to step forward?
No, we don't. May I? I move that, you want to get in first?
Well, just since you made a comment, I was going to head in the exact opposite direction. You were thrilled to have the police officer stepping forward, so having said that, I'm going to now let you make your motion. We'll see how things go.
I'm going to say that I'm just going to give you the precursor. I think I'm in line with the chair in that I think it brings a slightly different perspective than maybe is on the committee right now. But I understand where you're going with it because we've already got him locked into being a liaison, so he's...
I think it's what he can bring to the committee in terms of information. So what I'm trying to do is get Mr. Hardin's experience from biking from Old Barnstable Road, into town, and help us improve the safety there, because I know I bike throughout this town, and safety, I'm always worried about what's coming up from behind. And those insights, I think, could be very valuable to the bike committee. Plus, his participation in the bike lab brings a connection with another important resource in the town. So
that's where I found it very difficult that both Mr. Hart and Mr. Costello have the same, they both come from East Falmouth, they both commute, and they both work at the bike lab.
Right.
How to choose between the two of them? I'm going to let you choose by making a motion.
Okay, well, I'm going to move that we appoint Benjamin Harden to a term on the Bikeways Committee ending June 30th of 2017.
Okay, we have a motion. I'll second. And that's usually nominating them for, well, we'll just do that since there's only one appointment for a vacancy. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, so, Mr. Harden, you've been appointed till term ending June 30th, 2017. And Ms. Braga, would you like to make a motion?
I would move to appoint Clifford Harris to a period ending, I don't know, what's the next one?
June 2019.
2019. To the Bikeways Committee.
I'll second. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. And with great appreciation to the two people who we did not appoint, but thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
And we hope to see you all at the Bikeways Committee.
And a request that you continue to participate even if you're not officially on the committee, because I think you have great insights that you could add to their deliberations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next committee, we do have, the Cable Advisory Committee has one vacancy. We do have one applicant who's applied for 3 different committees, and I know I'm going to feel a little bit awkward about appointing someone to 3 committees in one night, and I'm not sure whether Mr. Highland wants to, how the rest of the board, before we, I want to give you an opportunity to at least discuss this with us before we have an interview where we may say, we're going to wait till the next committee.
Yeah, that's fine. Michael Halen, Cliffwood Lane, Falmouth. Having worked with all 3 of these committees in my personal job, I know that Cable Advisory meets on a non-regular basis.
Often because they don't have quorum, so.
Yeah, and they need people on the committee now. They're very short-staffed committee-wise. I have an extensive history in cable television. I have dealt with both Comcast and Verizon on the bargaining table. So I have that. I also served for the vice chair of the Alliance for Community Media for a couple of years, and I've been on that board, national board, for a while. I stepped down last year. The other committees I applied for were the Cultural Commission. Cultural Commission also meets sparingly because we wait for, and I was on the Cultural Commission in Norwood, we wait for the money from the state. Once we get that money, we get our applicants in, and we make the decisions, we send the money out. It's not a regular commission. And the third one was the Rec Committee, and that one meets regularly once a month. I also work closely with my Park and Rec from Rainham. I purchased a long-term lease of a building in town, renovated it, and I started a teen center, community center. I think that right now, if you don't want to appoint me to all 3, that's fine, but I feel that the town needs people to step up and start doing some of this stuff. And like you just said, the Cable Advisory Commission doesn't meet on a regular basis due to lack of quorum.
Well, then I'm going to declare we've just had your interview for the Cable Advisory Committee, and then we'll come back and revisit you later this evening for further discussion with fellow board members.
But can I ask this question? If you choose to appoint me to just one commission at this point, could I choose which one I feel is, at this point in time, the Cultural Commission isn't going to get their money in to a later date, and the Cable Commission doesn't have anything on the table right now as far as bargaining goes. And the Rec Committee does need a person, and they're a more active committee, if that makes sense. So I would kindly ask to be appointed to all 3, and if not, to be appointed to the one that needs the most, the person right now.
I guess we'll discuss among the board.
I think one of the things I would mention to my fellow selectmen is that Comcast is actually applying at the state level to be relieved of some of the, what's the word? Regulations. I know that's going to come back to the town when we have to renegotiate our contract for the cable services that we get, for FCTV and the school system and the town itself. I think your experience would really serve the town well if you can participate in that committee. So I would really like to see you be on that cable advisory committee, because I think we're going to be coming up with some legal issues and some challenges to the current contract. As basically Comcast is arguing that there are so many other media that provide internet services and TV services that they should no longer be encumbered with the regulatory restrictions that they currently have to adhere to. So I found that out at our annual Massachusetts Municipal Association meeting in January. So this is something that's out there that we're going to be dealing with, and it would be extremely valuable if you could be on that committee. So
Well, before we go there, does anyone else feel any discomfort with 3 appointments tonight? Because if the 2 of you are comfortable, then we can be open to that. It was just a little bit of reticence.
I understand where you're coming from, but I think given which committees they are, and the fact that they are, at least 2 of them, really at a deficit in some ways of capacity, and that may hinder what they need to do, I think that makes me feel more comfortable with it. And if Mr. Halen is telling us that he can attend all of these and participate, regularly and fully, even though it's 3 different committees, I don't think that they necessarily conflict time-wise. And we all recognize that some committees do meet more often, have sort of a different schedule. So I feel comfortable, given the fact that I feel, some of our committees have not languished, but struggled a little bit to have quorums or to have enough people to really do what they are charged with doing.
Okay.
Because of that, I would feel comfortable doing that. But I understand where you're coming from. In general, I think it's perhaps not the best practice.
Well, I'd like to move to appoint Michael Halen to the Cable Advisory Committee ending June 30th of 2019.
We have a motion and a second to appoint Michael to the Cable Advisory Committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it.
See you guys in like 2 minutes.
Next vacancy is the Cape and Vineyard Electric Co-op, has 1 vacancy. Again, we have the same situation. We have Lee Gray Bowes, who's applying for 3 different committees.
See here? Oh, wait.
Lee Gray, if you'd introduce yourself and tell us, first of all, why you'd like to be on the Cape and Vineyard Electric Co-op, but also maybe a little bit of the overall
situation.
Picture.
Sure. I'm Lee Gray Bowes. I moved here in August. I work for the U.S. Geological Survey as a physical scientist. I'm very involved in civic engagement and very, very high energy. I want to be involved in the Cape Anons Electric Co-op because, one, as a landowner, I have property that the power line goes through, and I have an easement with them. And I have interacted with them a lot, and they've been very forthcoming, but there are some issues that I was hoping to work with them as a committee. For instance, they can't find a copy of my easement and have no record of it, and stuff like that I'd like to clarify. Other small issues that I want to work on to promote would be stuff like land use that is promoting civic engagement, such as creating community gardens on easements and helping to develop public awareness of solar powers and stuff like that. To answer your second question, I'm not crazy. I just want to do 1 committee, and I thought if I do 3 applications, then I would find out, where I'm needed most and where I can be most effective.
And that's why you're alternate.
Correct.
You're looking for the...
Correct. My priority would be with the Cape Anons Electric Co-op, so.
Any other questions for Lee Gray?
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question of clarification? I didn't see that there was a term ending date for the Cape and Vineyard Electric Co-op. It wasn't in the table that we received. Is that just an omission?
I was pretty sure that was the term ending June 30th, 2019.
Okay.
But I'm
Well,
not positive about that, but I think we can do that and then amend it if we need to.
Okay, well then, if that's the case, then I move that we appoint Lee Gray Bowes to the Cape and Vineyard Electric Co-op to the term ending June 30th of 2019.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And we may be calling you back up in a few minutes.
Since we got this one, can I withdraw for the others?
You certainly can.
If you'd like to, sure. The only one I'd like to hesitate a second on is, as Michael said, the Cultural Council does not meet often and has 8 vacancies, and we cannot get the money if we can't actually meet. And so meets about once, you've already applied, it meets, typically meets about once every 3 months, if that. And so if you're willing to actually continue that application, we would consider your
Sure,
application
sounds
for
like
that.
fun.
Okay.
I'd love to.
So we, technically aren't doing those interviews this minute, but in about 10 minutes, we'll be handling that at that point. Thank you. All right, next is the Commission on Disabilities. We have 3 vacancies, 1 term ending June 30th, 2017, and 2 terms ending June 30th, 2018. We have 3 applicants. The first is Rona Carlton Foss. Would you introduce yourself and tell us whether you'd like to be on this commission and why you're only applying for 1 committee?
I'm Rona Carlton Foss. I've been a summer person all my life, but only in the last 2 years have I been a year-rounder when I retired from teaching. And I was first struck by the Committee on Disabilities from a headline in the Enterprise which said they couldn't get a quorum. And that seemed to me crazy, because all around us, we have people who need the kinds of assistance that's given by the Committee on Disabilities. And everything from a sidewalk slanting down into the street to a ramp up to a public building. And those kinds of things seem to me very important to keep life working well, and also to keep businesses in going. And if businesses don't have access to people who want to partake, then they're losing out. And one of the things I would like to be able to do would be to talk to people who aren't going with the American Disabilities Act, who aren't obeying it, and tell them what they're losing out on, rather than getting angry at them and telling them that they're idiots. But how come they're not doing it? What's going on? A lot of times I'm sure it's money. And I don't know if we have any kind of a budget or any money to give away or to use as incentives, but I'd love to have an award for the greatest change and the company that does the greatest amount to make more access for people with handicaps, or to some sort of a competition to get companies to try to do different things and think differently about the kind of work that has to be done to help people. And for me, it started with working with Neighborhood Falmouth, and I saw elderly people who say, oh, they can't go out because they won't be able to get in, or the people will feel that they're going too slowly and they'll hold things up. I don't want people to feel that way, or the people who help them. So that's why I'm interested in being on the Committee for Disabilities.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions? Okay, thank you very much. The next applicant is Richard Bowen. Welcome back.
My name is Richard Bowen. I live in Ambleside Drive, West Falmouth. I'm applying for the Disabilities Commission because my daughter, Kathleen, was born with cerebral palsy. For 60 years, we've tripes her all over the country and all over the world, really, and understand what really a handicapped person needs. For instance, I built a house for her in North Falmouth, and she and 2 other people live there. They're all handicapped, and we really know what the Disabilities Commission really needs to do. I've served on some committees in town, and I'd really like to make this committee the one that I want to really go out with.
I'm not sure we're going to allow that. I think once we get you hooked, we'll keep you in other committees also. All right, any questions?
There is a term you have to serve.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next applicant is Robert Muscali.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members. I'm Bob Muscali, Oxbow Road. I'm not sure if it's East Falmouth or T-Ticket. I've heard both lately. But in any event, we purchased a home in 2011, and for about 5 years, we were commuting back and forth from Albany, New York, weekends, weeks in the summer, sometimes in the winter. This past April, we moved out here full-time. And I was probably going to let some time go before I thought about, getting involved in some community activities. And like the woman before me, I saw the article in the Falmouth Enterprise and felt that given my experience, professional experience for the past 20 years, working with individuals with disabilities and their families as managing attorney for the New York State Office of Mental Retardation and Developmental Disabilities, and as counsel at the New York State Association of Retarded Citizens, that I might be able to bring something to the commission. So I figured I'd put in an application and see what happened.
Boy, Jane Terry would be thrilled to see all these people
I
coming
would say
forward
so.
after her appeal.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Muscali? Great, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much.
Well, we still have a tough decision, but not quite as hard as our Bikeways Committee.
Oh, it is?
No, I think
We have 3 positions.
Right,
and 3
but
applicants.
one's a year longer than the
Yeah.
other.
This is a doable, this
okay,
is a
all right,
doable.
well, I'm just going to go right down the list then, if
Okay.
that's all right with you.
Sure.
Then I move that we appoint Rona Carlton Foss to a term ending June 30th of 2018, for all of these for the Disabilities Commission. Can I just go on through and
Yes.
just bundle them together?
That's a fine motion.
Richard Bowen to a term ending June 30th of 2018, and Robert Muscali to a term ending June 30th of 2017. And there'll be plenty of opportunities to reapply at that point, so.
Just means the interview has to happen a little earlier. All right, we have a motion
Second.
and a second to make those appointments. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, and thank you very much for stepping forward.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, if
Yeah.
I may, just say that I think I worked in the field of, as a special needs advocate for more than a decade before my current employment, and I'm really thrilled, and I know that this is a sentiment that is shared, that that we have 3 applicants that are bringing really different perspectives, both personal, professional, and, just a different way of looking at what is a challenge and what is really an opportunity, because individuals with disabilities bring many important gifts to our society and to our community and should really be able to participate fully. And there's always more that we can do to make that more accessible. So I just want to say thank you, and that I think we're really thrilled that this committee is going to have some more life to it. So thank you.
Thanks.
Can I just say one more thing,
Sure.
too? And I just would ask you to be advocates, and I think you will be, for people with disabilities. Because so many times, I all of a sudden find that one of my neighbors that lives maybe 5 or 6 doors away is disabled. I didn't even know it. They've been squirreled away in their homes because they're not the kind of people that typically say, hey, I need the help. What we need is people that will advocate for them. So I would invite you to please be active in that regard in your committee positions. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next committee was the Conservation Commission, which has 2 vacancies for alternate positions. Mr. Bose has withdrawn. Mark Gurney, his interview is scheduled for July 25th. We will have another alternate position available then, so if there's anyone out there who can get an application in, we would still entertain that application. Next is the Cultural Council, has 8 vacancies, 2 terms ending June 30th, 2017, 5 terms ending June 30th, 2018, 1 term ending June 30th, 2019. Mr. Halen, if you would come back and advertise what the Cultural Council does, and maybe advertise for how we can get some more people to apply so we can get the quorum that we need.
Yeah, and I just heard you have a Conservation Commission opening too? We'll just, next week. Michael Halen, Cliffwood Lane again. The Cultural Commission, this is just going to be my layman's explanation, but the state gives each town a percentage of money. We take that money, we dole it out to different events in town, kids' plays, artwork, etc. That's about the idea.
That's the idea.
We need people in town to join the commission, and then people in town to apply. We have great artists in this town, and people can apply and get grant money. I've been both the recipient of the grant money for my artwork I do, and I have given out the money to other artists in 2 different communities. So it's a fantastic thing the state does, and we should get as much state money as we can.
Great.
So if anyone else wants to apply, this guy over here has applied, and me. That's 2. We need 6 more.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Bose, would you like to add anything to the discussion about the Cultural Council?
Hi. And it sounds like a great opportunity to get involved in the community and to get to know all the fantastic art projects and works and how to make a difference in the community. So, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I move that we appoint Lee Gray Bowes to a term ending June 30th, 2018 on the Cultural Council, and Michael Halen to a term ending June 30th, 2018.
Okay.
Second.
Motion is second to 2 terms ending June 30th, 2018. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Congratulations. The Historical Commission has 2 vacancies for alternate positions. Mason and Wilcox and Lee Drescher. Lee Drescher will be here on July 25th. Mason Wilcox, if you'd come forward.
Good evening.
Okay, now we have a half-hour interview. We have 20 questions. You'll have to sit down over here and answer them all. It's just yours is very different.
My name's Mason Wilcox. My wife and I purchased a home in January of 13. When I got stationed in Washington, D.C., I'm active duty Coast Guard, we said, let's go buy a house on Cape Cod. So we bought on the Cape. Little background about myself, my wife and I are both engineers. We like to work with our hands and do construction projects. I fell in love with Falmouth when I was a freshman at Mass Maritime back in 2000, and I kept coming back and eventually we finally bought out here. We recently just finished working on our 1700 farmhouse next to the Bourne Farm. I'm sure many people have seen that, and hopefully start construction on the rebuild of the barn. It's early 1900s. We really love the historical aspects of the town and really wanted to keep it going, and I figured what better way by joining the Historical Commission and adding what I can to it. Any questions?
And you understand you're applying for an alternate position, which involves going to the meetings if there's no one else there or not enough people there, then becoming a voting member at that time?
Yes, I understood there was only an alternate position available at the time, and I felt that either way I could be helpful.
Okay,
great. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Well, I know Mr. Patterson likes him because he's an engineer, so I think we already know where his vote will be.
Yes. Well, not only that, but the fact that he is renovating his own historical home tells me that he's committed to doing that. So the combination of the commitment and the expertise and experience. So I'm going to move that we appoint Mason Wilcox to an alternate position on the Historical Commission for a term ending June 30th of 2018.
Second.
Motion is second for June 30th, 2018. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, none. All right.
Thank you.
And then we'll see Lee Drescher on the 25th. And now we have the Recreation Committee. There's 1 vacancy, term ending June 30th, 2019. Name doesn't sound familiar. You know this guy?
Michael Halen, Cliffwood Lane, best meeting ever. Carrie is right in the Odyssey over there. I would like to join the Rec Committee. I am heavily involved with the Rec Committee in Rainham, as I previously stated about an hour ago. And any questions about my work with that, I will handle that.
Could you just tell maybe for folks who don't know, do you have children? Are they involved in the activities at the rec? Do you have familiarity with the rec?
Yeah, I have two children, two daughters, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, Rory and Callan. And Callan has been doing soccer at the Heights, and now just did finish T-ball with Steve Femino. We do a lot of the activities in the big glass room, whatever that room's called, when like the animals come and whatnot. I grew up with Sandy. I grew up with Sandy's children, and she's been doing it for years. I went to the rec as a child, so I've been involved with the rec for 35 years.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, I move that we appoint Michael Halen to a term on the Recreation Committee ending June 30th of 2019.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? He's going to be a very busy man.
I'll say thank you.
And thank you very much for stepping forward,
Thank you.
Michael. Next two appointments are to the Veterans Council. These are yearly appointments. These are upon the request of the organizations they're representing, and all we really do is just affirm them. And it's from the Disabled American Veterans for Joseph Quintiliani, term ending June 3rd, 2017. And for the Falmouth Military Support Group, Carol Kenny, with a term ending June 30th, 2017.
So do we move for appointment? Or
Just
do
to
we-
affirm their appointment.
Okay, to affirm. So I'd move to affirm appointment of Mr. Quintiliani. And can we do them together?
Yes.
Okay, and Ms. Kenny,
For terms ending.
for terms ending in June 30th, 2017.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. All right, next we have some sign variances. The first is for the East Falmouth Village Association for their annual meeting. That's for 3 locations, one at Route 28 in Central Avenue, one at Route 28 in Davisville Road, and one at Route 28 in Shorewood Drive. These are temporary sandwich board type signs, 2 feet by 3 feet. And so announcing the East Falmouth Village Association's annual meeting for Thursday, July 28th.
I move approval.
Second?
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry you're here that long for that quick in the end.
Yeah, it's kind of entertaining tonight.
The next request for the annual Lobster on the Lawn sign, commencing August 9th, ending August 22nd for the St. Barnabas Parish. My only question on this is, it's up now, and I'm happy to have it commence immediately, but I'm surprised they're asking for August 9th if they already have it up. So, even though it only says August 9th, I would suggest we change it to July 11th.
Okay.
I would agree.
Yeah, no problem at all.
And I do appreciate, sometimes I've stated when they put it up before they ask permission, but at least they're asking permission. The number of signs we actually have up in this town that aren't by our bylaw and people don't ask permission, we need to applaud those who do.
Well, and, I know St. Barnabas well and how much they give to the community, and most of their fundraisers actually come back to the community in various forms. So this is, I think, an accommodation that we can easily make, and so I would move approval.
I would second.
I think maybe something, a policy we can look into is that maybe some of these recurring signs that go up every year, that maybe you'll get administrative approval as opposed to having come back to us when we know we're going to approve them if we've done it 1 year.
And perhaps only if there's going to be a change in the dimensions or some nature like that.
Right.
We can look at that as a future policy. So we have motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. The ayes have it. And now we have the oversized sign variance for the Clipper Ship Apartments. And this is moving from exceeding the 16-foot square foot to 17-foot. Mr. Glasgow, is this also on you?
Yes.
Actually, if we could use this
Yeah, when you use the
easel
easel,
over here,
sure.
then the,
You good?
And I think it'd be easier for the TV camera.
Good evening, Michael Galasso, representing TRI, the Resource Sinks nonprofit affordable housing developer. We acquired the Clipper Ship properties about 2 months ago and starting to do some improvements out there, and eventually you'll see some additional affordable housing units that we'll be adding to the project. This is right at the entrance. We just wanted to refresh the sign a little bit and change it and get colors that we thought was a little bit more appropriate. Design review reviewed it, liked what we were doing. They asked us to make one change, which was to take out the website address and put the telephone number, because the website address is too long for people to see and write down as they're going by, so they thought it'd be better if we put the phone number on it. So that's the change that we've made.
It's a much more
It's
handsome
a
sign.
vast improvement.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know there was a gentleman who was at the Design Review Committee and was instructed if he had concerns to come to our meeting, but I don't see him here to make any statement whether he still had problems with it or not.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
The only question I have, I don't know, Michael, this appears to be an additional 12 square feet larger than the previous sign? Is that right?
It is.
So even though in that picture, they don't look significantly different in size.
It is a little bit larger, and it's felt that when they designed it for the flow of traffic that goes down that street, that's how they sized the sign and the lettering, so that's more readable. There is no light on it, so it's not illuminated at night. But they felt, the design folks who designed the sign felt that it needed to be a little bit larger to be more clearly read.
And it is set back from the
17 feet.
17 feet, so
Yeah.
it's...
So it doesn't obstruct any.
It looks like you're proposing to add a little bit of shrubbery or...
They'll be planting at the base of the sign.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the sign will be lower than the current one, too.
Right, I see that, yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
I move approval.
Second?
Motion second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. We did appoint your members to your commission, so you have 3 new members. Congratulations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
They look like good people, too.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you. The next item is the individual selectmen's reports.
You want to go first this time?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Several events I attended. The Blue Economy was a presentation at which Governor Baker spoke, Congressman Keating spoke, and Representatives Vera and Madden spoke. This was a kind of a presentation and exhibit held at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute. I know Chairman Jones was there as well. Impressive. We got to see the research vessel Armstrong, get a quick tour into it. It's impressive, I think, to see the technology that is actually being developed and applied through the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, and then other oceanographic companies and related companies, private companies here in Falmouth. I'll just mention a few of them: Teledyne Benthos, Hydroid, McLean, and some others that were exhibiting their products there. But the focus of it was to highlight the fact that our academic institutions, represented by WHOI and MIT Sea Grant and the Marine Biological Laboratory, are actually developing products that add to the economy that supports many, many people, and it's kind of probably bigger than most people realize in terms of the amount of revenues that it brings into our community. So I wanted to just mention that quickly. The fireworks this year were outstanding. My wife and I made that trip all the way down to the beach, and it was certainly an enjoyable occasion, and thank goodness the weather just held out beautifully. The rain didn't start until the next morning. Also attended the West Falmouth Village Association meeting. Some topics that came up during that discussion were the beach nourishment project that they're proposing to do at Chappaquay Beach, which is several years out and is certainly not, it's not on a fast track, but it's something that they're trying to plan for. I know Heather Harper was involved in that, but it's an ongoing discussion, and there are certainly issues that have to be refined. There certainly are concerns that they continue to raise about the fire and rescue coverage that they have in West Falmouth, and they certainly were articulate in raising those. They certainly highlighted their pleasure with the West Falmouth Harbor Dock restoration, and I rode by there today on my bicycle, and it's an outstanding piece of work. And I want to just say kudos to the Department of Public Works for their efforts in building that construction, and then mention again that the Community Preservation Act funds were used to actually rebuild the pink granite rock wall that surrounds it. It's an outstanding piece of work. These are dry stack, large granite blocks, I guess you would say, but I would recommend that anybody to go down there because the whole project turned out beautifully, and it's a nice example of how we've invested specifically in the historical reservation of that pink granite because it dates back to the 1830s when they were actually shipping pink granite block out of West Falmouth Harbor from that dock. I attended, and Julian was at a fire and rescue and induction and advancement and recognition ceremony last week where our fire and rescue employees were recognized as new inductees, I guess you'd say, and also an advancement in rank by several others. It was a very nice occasion, and it's good to see the kind of the growth that occurs and the new blood that's coming into the fire and rescue staff here in town. The last thing I just wanted to mention is I rode by Goodwill Park, and the new playground is in place, and is it ever actively used? I think there must have been 20 kids and probably at least a dozen adults there, and it's impressive. It's a lot of new apparatus. They took down the old playground equipment, which was old and actually a little bit on the dangerous side, and the new equipment that's there is just attracting kids, and you can see they're having a terrific time. And it's modern equipment that's designed to be safe, and it's pretty impressive. And it's, again, our tax dollars at work. The equipment purchased by the Community Preservation Act funds that we have, that we contribute as part of our tax, real estate taxes. But then the work is actually performed in construction. The construction of that playground was by our DPW staff, and they did a terrific job. So
thank you.
My thanks to them.
Just briefly, I just wanted to say, I think anyone who drove around over the holiday weekend, recognized that there was just a crush of people in town. It was gorgeous weather, and there were a lot of people here. And by all accounts, our public safety personnel did really a phenomenal job because the weekend really went off without any significant incidents, despite the number of people, despite having fireworks. So I just really want to thank fire, the police department, for really, doing the work that they do to keep us safe and to, make the weekend enjoyable. So the memories that the visitors have are wonderful and they want to come back. And I also just want to touch on something that you said, Sam, which is that Goodwill Park, it's beautiful, and the work that's been done there is really stunning. And, unfortunately, there, were a number of reports that this weekend it wasn't, cared for very well by those who were visiting it and using it. And I really want to thank the DPW for not only the work they did to get the park to do the building and put the playground, but the maintenance that they do on a regular basis is substantial, and then what they, I think, dealt with this weekend was above and beyond, and really, without complaint, taking care of this asset to our town that everyone gets to enjoy. And I think it's important to point out it's a free asset. You don't even need a sticker like you need to go to the beach. Just as anybody can go there at any time and really enjoy it. They can swim, use a playground, have a cookout. So I really want to thank the Department of Public Works. I don't think that sometimes they get the recognition that they do a lot of the heavy lifting to keep the town beautiful. So just all of our town employees, I think this was a really successful weekend. I know that the event on July 5th seemed to go well, and it was a rainy day, so I think it was perfect because a lot of folks needed somewhere to go, and the 8 Cousins had their event, and so I think it was well attended and seemed to go smoothly as well. So just a big thank you to our public employees.
Actually, at the 4th of July fireworks, I was on the harbor master's boat out patrolling on the waters near the barge, and so I was also able to hear the radio, the police radio. Amazing how well all the issues that arose that evening, and there were not too many of them, but how well they were all handled, and with Marine, with the harbor master, with the police
Yes.
department, with the fire department, with the sheriff's office, all working in concert to making sure that they were, making sure that they had that many people well controlled. And so it really was a tribute to what was going on then.
I think it's important to maybe mention to the public that our police department, all of the members have to work on the 4th of July. It's part of their contract. So they have to give up their family time to come out and make sure that we are able to go to that event and that traffic is able to move in and out efficiently and emergencies are responded to in an effective and safe way.
I think our board's also going to be put in the position of having to decide how do we handle that Dutch Roulette and his committee are stepping down. We did contribute more money than we have in the past. I personally don't think it's something that the town should foot the entire bill, but I think we may be able to step forward, but then really encourage some of the local businesses to, challenge them to match some of the more funds we may be able to put in, because I think it is an event that people really do appreciate, and that I know that Boston's concerning the same kinds of concerns about whether they maintain their fireworks, but I think that's something for our future discussion.
Well, but along those same lines, yes, we have the financial obligation, but we also have the leadership, because that didn't happen without people stepping forward and going out and beating the drum and putting their hand out and saying, please give on behalf, for the benefit of the town. So we need somebody to kind of fill Dutch Roulette's many, many years of really being the organizer to make this happen. So we also need people to step forward and fill that committee.
Michael, we should have gotten, we could appoint him to any committee.
He'll be back.
Anything else? Mr. Suso?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do want to echo all the terrific remarks of members of the board regarding the fireworks and the many events that took place over that very, very busy weekend. And also to echo the acknowledgement of police and fire, as well as public works, for the excellent work to accommodate what clearly is over 100,000 people in a community that has infrastructure designed for less than a third of that. So it really taxes us to the maximum, and a good job has been done by all. We appreciate it very much. I'd also transmitted to the board a draft letter in support of the town of Chatham. We were asked to provide some consideration to Chatham. They're in a disagreement with the Fish and Wildlife Service on the Monomoy National Wildlife Refuge. Also, there was a letter from the governor, Governor Baker, included in that, in which the governor pledges his support for this same initiative. And I'm asking if the board would be comfortable with me transmitting that letter on behalf of and in support of both the town of Chatham, but also the Commonwealth, in terms of their efforts to maintain their control over the waters in the area of Monomoy, and that they traditionally have overseen and been good stewards for and have a record accordingly. And I would ask for the board's thoughts on that.
Mr. Patterson?
Yeah, I read the letter and I thought it was very appropriate and 100% behind it. I was wondering whether we shouldn't really include the Board of Selectmen as part of this, as well as just you as the town manager. So I would at least recommend that we add the Board of Selectmen and authorize our chairman to sign on our behalf. But I move that we authorize the sending of this letter to Congressman Keating on behalf of the town of Chatham and their request.
Okay. So we can redraft it, Killington.
Happy to do so.
Okay. Do we have that motion?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Just a reminder of the your annual strategic plan retreat scheduled for 6 p.m. next Monday, July 18th at the library. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, you know what?